To our first speaker on food education, addressing deprivation through food education. Now, last year, we didn't talk to you about food education. It wasn't on our agenda, but you made copious notes, right? And we harvested them all up and went through them all very carefully. And it was the outstanding theme that came up from what you told us that were your ideas and your next steps and what you saw needed to happen in Lincolnshire, was about retrieving the skills of cooking from scratch, children having opportunity to have better food education than we typically get in schools. And I want to tell you, I want to level with you, my heart sank because I run quite a few workshops, and very frequently what happens is a room full of people who are like total heavyweights who are having a really productive time, and then they'll go into a conversation and they'll start talking about actually how everyone needs better food education, and they'll go into sort of hand-wringing, and we'll sort of lose the thread of like the really productive, positive work that they were doing. And so I find it, and it's a frustration for me that comes up very often. But I also recognise what a powerful and essential part of the jigsaw puzzle food education is, and the knowledge and the skills of growing and cooking your food from scratch, and having that connection with food and land and community. And so I do really appreciate this opportunity of bringing to the platform people that really inspire me in how well and how excitingly they're doing food education. When I had food education, I did food technology at GCSE. I learned how to bake bread off a worksheet, ditto yogurt. It's like, what use was that? So yeah, I'm really happy and excited to introduce to you our first speaker, who is Dr. Jason O'Rourke. Jason is the head teacher of Washingborough Academy, which is internationally famous now for the work it does with school food. And Jason is also a founder of TastEd, Taste Education, which is a national charity and which won a BBC Food and Farming Innovation Award a few years ago. And I will let you, I could ramble about it, so I'll pass over to Jason. Here you go.
Thank you, Laura, and happy birthday. Happy birthday. Thank you, and hello. As Laura said, I am Jason O'Rourke. I'm the head teacher, but also I work with a number of organisations to do with food. I'm just going to claw back a little bit about TastEd and talking to you about the kind of deprivation, because what we've got in the national curriculum, what we've got to do with food education, I've only got 5 minutes, so I'm going to wrap everything up really quite quickly. But in the national curriculum, when you talk about food education, everybody looks at cooking. Okay, and it is mentioned briefly. Food education, the actual process of teaching and learning food, is very buried very deep in the national curriculum. It's actually under design and technology. It hasn't got its own section. Okay, and when it is taught in schools, it's very much science-based. We're talking about nutrition, and we're talking about carbohydrates, and we're talking about proteins. And when I first started in teaching, a lot of it was done with, as Laura said there, with sheets of paper, and we'd get well plates and kind of putting vegetables in that section and meat in that section and dairy in that section. Really, really quite dry. And children didn't kind of respond to it, okay, because they didn't have the hands-on experience. So when I started doing food education years and years ago, when I first became a head, and you could evolve your curriculum in your schools, the things that you think are important, and you know, I would put food and children's health and well-being up there beyond maths and English in my mind, because it extends children's lives. Okay, so I think, you know, you've got aspects of, you know, frontal adverbials and division of fractions. That's not going to spark a children's imagination. It's not going to enthuse them to do things. The actual hands-on stuff of food education does do that. Okay. But also, when you're looking at the national curriculum, a lot of it is about cooking. And I think with this, and use the analogy of an onion, you've got to peel it back. And what we have a little bit of a problem with, or a big problem with actually, is eating. So children have first got to learn to eat healthy, nutritious food before you go into the cooking stages. Because you can cook as much as you want, but are the children going to eat it at the end of it? So you've got to expose children to healthy fruit and vegetables that they may not get at home. If a parent doesn't like broccoli, they're not going to have broccoli in their house, and children aren't going to get involved in it. So what happened with TastEd is that years ago I was invited to the SAPRA Network Sensory Food Education Conference, and I had that light bulb moment. This is how food education should be taught. And I came back, and with the food writer B. Wilson, B and I set up TastEd, and I'm just going to run you through how it can improve children's life chances, how it can expand their palates, and how it can combat health and economic deprivation. If we could move the slides on, please. Okay, so what is TastEd? It is a charity. Sensory food education is about using all of our senses to access food. Children from a very young age, the first things you do in nursery and reception class is look at your senses. And everything that we know as humans, we gain through our senses, but we start to lose the ability to use them the older we get. One situation we get in school sometimes is like in Key Stage 1, if there's a jumper that hasn't got a label on it, and the teacher's holding the jumper up and said, who does this belong to? Do you know how children find out who it belongs to? They smell it. You pass it to a child, they'll smell it and say, oh yeah, that's Billy's jumper, okay? We lose that as we get older because we focus mainly on our sight and don't use the other ones. So children at that age are really receptive to using their senses. So get down to the basics of it. Okay, so short for taste education is based on the SAPRA method, which is about sensory food education, which is now a worldwide organisation. Started in France, it's in the national curriculum in Finland, it's all over Scandinavia, it's in Japan, it's in Holland, it's going into Singapore, it's going into America now. So it's all based on that method. Using your five senses to explore only TastEd. What we look at is fruits and vegetables, giving children access to that. Because if they haven't got access to it at home for all types of reasons, probably economic, as a parent, you're not going to buy an aubergine or you're not going to invest in a courgette if you don't think your child's going to eat it. It's wasted money. You're going to throw it away. Schools have the ability, because you've got your captured audience of your children there, to use your money, and I do, our budget, to buy those things so that children can then explore them and use their senses to investigate them. And I'm telling you, 95 times out of 100, children will then eat that produce because they've explored it through their senses. They've looked at it, they've described it, they've smelt it, hearing it. You think, how do you hear food? Put some headphones on, try some celery, and then try a strawberry. The noise in your head is completely and utterly different. Okay, so by exploring them through their senses, when you get to the point of the taste, they're so curious and they're so inquisitive, then they'll do it. And also, you've got your friend next to you trying it, and you're sitting there going, I haven't tried it before, but, well, they're going to. I don't want to be left out. And you try it, okay? And it is really, really powerful. Plus, the relationship a child has with their teacher is a completely different relationship you have with your parents, okay? There's not that emotional attachment. You know, you're more likely to do it if your teacher is there because... so very, very simple hands-on lessons, and it helps children to learn to enjoy it. It is the most enjoyable lesson. And I'm not just talking about that for children, for teachers as well. They say that. And it changes teachers' palettes, and they're trying things that they haven't tried before. And we've created over 100 resources for teachers and practitioners from FS all the way through to Year 6. Okay? And the rules are, there's only a couple of rules, really. No one has to try it, and no one has to like it. Now, once children get those type of things, you can see them relax. I don't have to try this if I don't want to. We're not forcing you to try it. And, of course, you don't have to like it. We all like different things. But it's knowing what you do and don't like. It's having control over your own palate there. Is learning by doing, and we all know that that's a lot better than learning from a piece of paper and writing everything down on a get well plate. And we start as young as we can with our FS children, because you know, you may have children who are 2, 3, you may have grandchildren that are 2, 3 years old. They put anything in their mouth, don't they? So let's use that opportunity to give them fresh fruit and vegetables that they're going to try, okay? And they, as I said there, they're encouraged to enjoy their likes and dislikes. Okay, so children who've started this when they're 3, when they come into our school, as they go up this, through their passage, their journey through our school, when they're at Key Stage 2, they're trying things like anchovies, they're trying things like olives, they're trying things like blue cheese. Okay, they're trying things like herring. Okay, because they know that their tastes are particular to them, and they're more inclined and more confident to try new foods. Benefits of it are numerous. Okay, it is, because of its simplicity, it is really, really effective. Really effective. You don't want to complicate things. You don't want to make it too difficult. We based it on a phonics scheme, actually, the Read, Write, Ink phonics scheme, which means that you hand over the resources to teachers and you guide them as well, because you'll find that teachers don't have those skills either. You know, we've had 2 or 3 generations that haven't had access to good food education in their own education. So it's given them those skills and given them the confidence as well. But it's using schools as that kind of fulcrum, as that resource to try new food that may not happen at home for all types of reasons. Okay, and that's what I think, as a society we should be doing, because I'm not going to go into the whys and wherefores of children's health and well-being. You all know that it is really, really poor. So we've got to have an active, proactive curriculum and proactive resources that can help support children and families in that. And it also links up with lunches as well. Okay, so children who are trying things in their classroom and then they see that on the lunch pass, because we have our own lunches at our school and our own chef, we link up with our school garden and our polytunnel and our hives and all those type of things. But if the children are seeing it in the classroom and experiencing it and trying it, when they then see it at the lunch hall, they're more inclined to try it. Thank you. Okay. So structure of it, really, really easy. Lots of activity plans, at least 5 lessons now for every year group. And I didn't tell you that this is all free. Okay, there's no cost to this. We knew very early as a head teacher, I know how tight budgets are, people aren't going to pay for this. So you've got to make sure that it's free at source. Okay, so anybody can sign up for it and they can get into the portal and they can get all these lessons for free. Thank you. That's what the lessons look like. Okay, so all our teachers were the kind of guinea pigs of that. We created the lesson plans for it, learning objectives, all the lesson outlines, and you can see there they all link up with a PowerPoint as well. So we have small groups of children. Well, we can do it with the whole class, 20 children. The activities in the centre of it, different types of citrus is one lesson. Okay, so you have different types of oranges and lemons and limes, or different types of apples, different textures of apples, and the children then accessing them and using their senses to explore them. Thank you. So at its simplest, TastEd is, here's some food that you may not be able to, you haven't accessed at home, or you haven't seen at home, or you haven't tried at home. Okay, tell me what you see, touch, hear, smell and taste, and you can try some of this food if you like. And I'm saying 95% of the time children do it, and it's really good. Also, SEN children, autistic children, they are in a comfortable space for this. You're thinking, some children might not access it. They do. It's really, really a powerful tool. Thank you. And as Laura said, it's expanded a lot since we set it up. TastEd we just had our 5th birthday last month. So 5 years ago, starting from scratch, we're now improve your practice with the DFE and in talks with them with the new revamped national curriculum. It's now included in the Welsh Government's curriculum. It's also included in their HAF programme, which is called Food and Fun. So they include TastEd in their sessions as well. And it has also been included in the UN FAO's, the Food and Agricultural Organisation's resources for developing countries as well. So it's gone from strength to strength. Just need it a little bit more in Lincolnshire. It's funny how you can get it in Bangladesh and you can get it in Chad, but I can't get it in Market Raisin. So hopefully, this will spread out. If there's any people in councils that will do that, will be fantastic. But it is, I said, sometimes you can wrap things up in loads and loads of complicated things and loads of meetings and stuff. the best ideas are always the simplest, and this is what we found with this one here. It is really, really effective.
Thank you. I will accept one question so that we keep running to schedules. Anybody want to ask Jason something? Shall I rove with the mic? I could rove, couldn't I? Is that all right? Yeah, thanks.
I'm assuming this is at primary level. What about at secondary level? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jason. I'm going to keep running the presentations and invite Sarah and Tom to the stage. Tom runs Boston Market Garden, which if you go to Boston and there's this big urban area and you would not know it was there, but in between all the houses, it's like this little treasure. How many acres is it? 3 acres, like in the middle of Boston. Anyway, it's this absolute beautiful little haven in the middle of Boston where he runs the market garden, and there's an orchard and everything growing. It's really exciting and beautiful place to visit. And every week, there will be a presentation in just a sec, 30 children from Tower Road Academy walk down the street into the market garden. So like, I'll let these, I won't explain your story for you. But this is Sarah, who I met last year or maybe the year before, who's on the senior leadership team at Tower Road Academy, and has set up this really cool and original scheme with your SEN children.
Go on, I'll start. Yeah. Can we go back to the beginning? Yeah, perfect. Hello, thank you, Laura, for giving us an opportunity to talk today. I'm Tom Houghton, Sarah's you've just been introduced to. I'm going to give you a brief overview of myself. Sarah's going to talk about her, and then kind of what we're doing for children's education in the locality of Boston. So as you can see, that's me. I've 21 years in the horticultural industry. During the pandemic, I kind of got a bit disillusioned with the work I was doing, and fell in love with a market garden in the centre of Boston. It had been under a number of years with the previous owner. It had been kind of going into a state of disrepair. So over the last 3.5 years, I've kind of been doing loads of work there. We've put in 54 no-dig beds. We kind of promote no-dig and the benefits of leaving the soil alone and creating a really healthy soil for growing fresh fruit and produce in. We've put in a 27-metre-long polytunnel. I rescued that from a social enterprise in Sheffield that was closing, so we brought that to our location. We've repurposed it, and we now use that as an indoor space on the more inclement weather days, and it's also our opportunity for growing hot produce in the summer and salad leaves through the winter. As Laura said, it's a 3-acre space. We've got an acre of fruit orchard, heritage fruit orchard, which is a mixture of plum, pear, damson. And I've been doing loads of restorative pruning because the previous owner, unfortunately, had been declining in health for a number of years. We've also planted an additional 40 trees over the last couple of years, and we have just been accepted on the Lincoln LCC Community Orchard project. So we're getting another 20 trees in January that we'll be planting with the children of Tower Road Academy. I've also got 2 traditional Dutch-like glass houses on site. We were fortunate earlier in the year to secure some funding through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and this has helped us finish off the restoration of these. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have the last timber and glass going into the second glass house. final thing, I suppose, is in October 23, and with the work that we'd been doing together, I registered the business as a CIC. The idea being that I could gain more grant funding that would mean we can do more children's teaching and also teaching for adults in the community as well. So at the beginning of the year, we did gain some funding to provide an adult gardening club once a week, and that is supported by the Mental Health and Wellbeing Community Investment Fund. I'll hand over to Sarah.
I don't know why I'm so nervous. I speak to children all the time, and adults is just, right, okay. So, my name's Sarah. I'm the Deputy Head Teacher at Tower Road Academy, which is in Boston. It's a large school. There's 550 pupils-ish. It's a primary school. My background, I grew up on a farm near Sleaford, so my dad's a farmer, retired farmer, my brother's a farmer, so it's very much in my sort of blood, but I did not go into farming, I went into education, obviously, instead. I've put the vision and aims of Tower Road Academy on the board, because I think it's really important that I wanted to tell you what the school's all about, and how we sort of started this partnership. So the school's all about learning for life. The best thing about Tower Road Academy for me is the range of cultures and different diversity that we have in our school. There's 40 different languages, there's 10 different religions, there's children from all different backgrounds, and I love that. I love the way everybody comes together. But our aims are knowledge, values, and opportunities. Knowledge, we want the children to leave with academic knowledge. We want the children to leave with how to stay safe. We want the children to have those strong values when they leave school. So just being kind, having good manners, achieving their best. But then the last one is opportunities. Now, opportunities is, God, I'm shaking. Why am I shaking? Just imagine you're all 10 and it's fine. So the opportunities is really we want children to experience as much as they possibly can, a wide range of sports. Just try learning an instrument so that when they leave our school, they've tried things and they might find their passion. But the other part of it is there are children, and quite a proportion of children that come to our school that don't have opportunities outside of the school building. They don't have a garden. They don't have the money to do some of the things that they so desperately want to do. So that's really what sort of drove the conversation between us. Can we go on to the next slide? Okay, so it was a chance meeting in January 2023, which we won't share, but if anyone wants to know where we met, I'll tell you. It was Bongo's Bingo. Sorry, Tom. Tom was like, we can't tell people that, but I have to. And we just started talking. Oh, you're in Boston, I'm in Boston. And Tom started telling me what he was doing, and I thought, God, I want the children to go, and I want the children to be part of this, and what can we do? So we met up, and we just really shared that passion for children's education, particularly for children, like I said, that don't have a garden, so don't learn where food comes from. And we wanted them to be practical and on the ground doing it, so we started these weekly classes.
Cheers. Yeah, as Sarah says, we we put our heads together and we came up with a broad curriculum for the children to follow throughout the year. So I think they get a real taste of the seasonality of the jobs within the garden. So that can kind of start with in the summer, spring, we kind of get on with seed sowing and planting maybe like the early potatoes, things like that. We move on through the summer, sort of dealing with the glut of the harvests throughout the season. I think, as Jason said, it's really important we encourage the children to get their hands on, get their hands dirty, try the different things that they're harvesting if they want to in a non-pressured environment. And I think it's interesting, Jason says about sort of children watching each other try different things. A good example was we grew radishes, early radishes in the polytunnel. Well, most of the children, as we were harvesting them, sort of said, well, I don't like radishes. And a couple of the boys that are kind of thick as thieves, Jean and Larice, they dived straight into eating these radishes. And you could sort of just watch all of the children sort of go, oh, they're eating them, they're enjoying them. And sort of throughout the course of that lesson, we had all the children trying the radishes. And I think it was important that some of them didn't enjoy the taste of them. And that's an important lesson for them to learn, as much as it is trying it and enjoying it. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we try to deliver. We do 2 lessons on a Tuesday with sort of 12 to 15 children per session, and kind of an average day, as Sarah says, is the children walk over from the school, which we're really fortunate. It's probably a 3-minute walk door to door. They cross one main road and they're in my garden. They put their wellies on in the welly den. They all have gloves. We put the gloves on. We walk down through the orchard. You can't see it in this shot, but there's a fruit orchard up through here. So they kind of walk down into the main garden area. We stop and feed the chickens. Some collect eggs. We don't get so many children that are excited about cleaning out the chickens, but that's okay. They enjoy feeding them, and that's kind of a fun little task. And then we really spend sort of an hour and a half delivering 2 lessons to the children. Again, it's a seasonal job, so an example this week was they were crafting, so we were making Christmas tree decorations because we're going to have a tree in the Boston stump. But the previous week to that, they'd planted garlic and they were tucking that up for winter. They've also been planting their winter onions. So they're kind of getting an idea of the things that will be growing in the new coming season, and also how to prepare the garden for winter. And then, as we head into the winter months, we've been dealing with sort of harvesting from the fruit orchard. So they all get an opportunity to try apples freshly picked from the tree. They also take apples back to the school, so they can give them out to their friends, their family, and their peers at school. And again, I think that's the really important thing. In each lesson, when we're harvesting, I really try to encourage the children to take things home and use it with their families. And I think, that's about it. Can we go on to the next slide? Thank you. I think here kind of summarises some of the things that we've found the children benefiting from. Definitely improved fitness levels, willingness to try new vegetables because they're getting active, they're growing it themselves. And they're developing a connection with the environment, a deeper understanding of nature and where their food comes from, importantly. It's so interesting how many start and aren't aware of where their food really is coming from, particularly in the Boston Borough. We're surrounded by so much growing, and it's amazing how disconnected they are in a way. So it's really positive that we can reconnect them with that. Shall I give you examples of the last couple?
So a lot of the children that we choose to go to the market garden are children that face additional challenges or have complex SEND needs, might be struggling with things at home, or children that have experienced grief, really. So it's really vulnerable pupils, or pupils that we really think will benefit the most from the time outside and from the time learning in the garden. And we do see an impact, which is the most important thing. So as you can see, there's a quote down here from a parent, and both her children actually have been to the garden in the last 2 years, and she could not speak hard. She loves it, and they'll take pumpkins home, for example, and they'll be making pumpkin soup, and she's a real advocate for it. And and there's lots of parents are really, they see the power of it, and they're really behind it, which is great. Next slide, please. So the future of it, we keep talking, okay, so what's next? We're 2 years into the cycle now, aren't we? And it is going really, really well, but we want to extend it to more children. So we want to increase the number of pupils, obviously attending these weekly lessons, and you'll talk in a moment about the campaign. The other thing is a cooking club. So we did this a couple of years ago. We approached a local secondary school to say, have you got Can we use your kitchen, please, in the timetable slots that you're not using it? Because secondary schools have this great resource of these kitchens with workbenches for lots of children to prep food. We don't have that as a primary school. We don't have a kitchen. Despite being such a large school, we don't have these facilities. So we contacted the local school, again, not far away, a walk away, and we said, can we use your kitchen, please? You know, and they very kindly said yes, for free, we can go along and use it on a Wednesday morning. And what we would really like to do is, we've now got groups of children that as in January, we'll be able to take these children over on a Wednesday morning, so use the produce from a Tuesday afternoon, and then take it with us to the kitchen on the Wednesday morning and teach children how to make simple dishes that so the older children, sort of year 5, 6, that when they leave us, we know that they're leaving with this kind of life skill. These children that we've chosen, again, disadvantaged pupils or young carers, that for them it's a really important life skill. So we're hoping to sort of blend the two projects together.
Lastly, as you can see, a way that I, as a business, am trying to expand and get more children involved in the garden is we're currently running a Space Hive crowdfunding campaign, and that's going to be working with the local council. The idea being that we've had so many children, parents, that come and approach Sarah and say, how can we get more children into the garden? Well, we have limited time on Tuesdays to do that. So together we kind of came up with the idea of having a Saturday morning club. And we're also going to be hosting a club during the summer holidays and the school holidays in general as an alternative provision to children in the locality, not just from Tower Road Academy. So Space Hive is going to be the route for doing this. So if anyone fancies supporting the project, you can by clicking on the QR code, scanning that. But the idea being it's going to give more children in the community an opportunity to come out into the garden, just have some fun and kind of get involved with everything that is part of growing fresh fruit and vegetables. I think that's about it in a nutshell. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, Boston, I don't know how some people in the room know this already. It's got nicknamed the obesity capital, didn't it? 42% of children in Boston leave primary school with overweight or obesity. So what these guys are doing is absolutely game-changing for those children that do get to come, and really cool that you're increasing the number, but shouldn't every child have this experience in Boston or across Lincolnshire? If you use Instagram, sit in your break and look up Boston Market Garden, please, because you'll see the photos of the children enjoying it, and it's so heartwarming and inspiring. And I really wanted these guys to come because sometimes it feels in schools, I trained as a teacher, I worked in schools for a number of years, sometimes it feels like impossible, but it's not impossible, and we're going to make it more possible, right? And so I will invite up Rob, there he is, who works with all age groups actually. Rob is the founder of GoGro. I won't retell your story, but it's really exciting.
Hi everyone. Thank you for inviting me, Laura. So as far as slides are concerned, just flick them forward whenever you feel you should. Do you know what, I just thought I might get my book just in case I forget. No one else has taken notes to the front, so I didn't really want to, but I didn't want to forget anything. Hello. Sorry, Hillary. Can you see? It might not be relevant to what I'm saying, but this is the vision. So, hello everyone. I'm Rob from GoGro CIC. I created this nearly 3 years ago on the back of delivering a food-based project and just witnessing firsthand the outcomes that we were able to achieve. I think we in a 2-hour session. From the start, when we have a collection of ingredients, and at the end, people who've never cooked before are eating what they've created themselves, and they're going, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And we say, "Yeah, you made that," and the look on their faces—that was the thing that made me think we have to do more with this. And with every single project that we develop and deliver, we learn more. So kind of we've evolved over the last 2-3 years. And I suppose what I wanted to say was, isn't it healthy food should be a human right, a basic human right. And across the world, we see so many people who are unable to obtain healthy food, because of war, famine. And we're so lucky where we are that actually pretty much everybody should be able to access healthy and affordable, nutritious food. With all the systems that we've got in place, the partnerships, some of the people and the organisations that we've worked with and we do continue to work with, help everybody obtain healthy, nutritious food. And I mean, what we've heard already this morning, makes me realise, because I was thinking, people are leaving school not knowing how to cook, and their parents don't know how to cook. So therefore, as far as their independence is concerned, they're restricted, and the lessons that they will teach their children aren't adequate in terms of that nutritious, healthy food. But I think it's really interesting when you heard about it's about eating as well, not just cooking. So I thought that was really interesting. But as far as GoGro is concerned, we go to communities. We deliver cookery courses aimed at everybody. The youngest person we've taught is 5, and the oldest person is 105. Still going strong as well. So we go to communities, and a lot of it depends on the funding that we get. But we love to deliver budget cooking courses where we teach people how to make nutritious, healthy meals for themselves and their families at a budget. I think last week we did a sagaloo, and it was less than 50p a portion, and it was beautiful and tasty, and people who didn't like spicy food ate it and enjoyed it. There's a poached pear. At the moment, we're still doing poached pears, and that's a really lovely thing to do because it's just poaching a pear with some spices and herbs and things and some sugar, and people love that. So we deliver lots of different courses around, primarily at the moment Lincoln and West Lindsey, and I think it's also worth thanking City of Lincoln Council, West Lindsey District Council and Lincolnshire Food Partnership. If it wasn't for those 3 organisations, we wouldn't be here delivering the work that we're doing. So it's so needed. It's not statutory. We love doing what we do, and we're so grateful for those who do fund us to do that. I think one thing I wanted to say was an example of why, of kind of what enthuses us. So yesterday we did a guacamole as part of the meal that we were doing. And somebody was saying that in a previous week, a few weeks ago, they got some coriander, and they've kind of spread it out, and now they've got lots of coriander they're growing. And he said, "Oh, next week I'm going to bring it, so I'm going to share it with everybody else in the course." And that was just such a lovely moment of someone who was growing their own herbs. They haven't got a garden, by the way. They've got a pot on their window, and they're bringing this to share with the rest of the group. So people are coming together because of food, and they're sharing food with each other. They're creating a community. They're creating friendships and relationship. I mean, it's just, food is so important for that. And I suppose another example I really wanted to share was a couple of years ago we did a slow cooker course, and within about 2 or 3 weeks, people started bringing food. One person grew their own vegetables, so that she brought pumpkins, she brought carrots, she brought so many things. Somebody else started baking biscuits and cakes and bringing those in as well. So it was just wonderful seeing all these people bring these foods and ingredients to the weekly courses. One week someone didn't turn up because their cat had died, and he had some mental health issues, and people were worried about him. So the group themselves said, well, why don't we just create this hamper with all this fresh fruit and veg, biscuits, cakes, and then the food that we made during that session we kept as well, and I delivered it to this guy's house, and he was so grateful, and he said thank you to my friends, and I was just like, he called everybody his friends. He didn't know anybody before these courses started, but within a few weeks he considered all these people from different backgrounds, he called them his friends, and it was so wonderful. You deliver these courses where we teach people how to make nutritious, healthy food for themselves and their families, give them a sense of pride, improve their independence, improves their well-being, their mental health, and they create friendships with one another. And it's so simple. Sometimes I find myself talking about these things and I think, what am I going to say? It's just cooking. It's food. Everybody can do it. There are so many good cooks around. How do we share this? How do we make more of these kind of groups, more of these courses around Lincolnshire? We're asked by organisations all over Lincolnshire to deliver courses, and we're grateful for that. But part of me thinks, who else is there? Why aren't there more organisations delivering simple, healthy, budget cooking courses to people? It's really interesting. We'd love to train more organisations to do that, more volunteers to do that. If anybody's interested in working with us, not to get us to work for them, but to learn more about what we do, how we do it, how we make it a success, please come and talk to us at the end. I think that's it. Next slide's got contact details on, I think. So we're on Facebook and Instagram, and we've got emails and stuff, so please come and talk to us. We work in schools, and we try to kind of combine the work we do with children at school with their parents as well. We think, you know, it was really inspiring to hear some of the work that's going on with school children, just to get their parents involved as well, to encourage them and to improve their confidence. Because as we said, cooking is easy, but it is about confidence. If somebody doesn't know what to do with a certain vegetable, they're not going to do it. So to improve people's confidence around cooking. And once we improve people's confidence, and the ones who can cook are more likely to volunteer to do more cooking sessions as well. So that's what we're trying to do. Thank you.
What is so lovely about GoGro, Eamon, who isn't here today, he's a very good chef, right? And when you're having cooking food with like the cheap, the basic, the simple ingredients, including stuff that you're going to get in a food parcel from a food bank or a very low cost, but making it like with a chef, and it's like really delicious and exciting. I wish I'd made a slide of it. There's a quote from Colin Tudge, who is the founder of the Oxford Real Farming Conference, which is a hugely inspiring annual event in Oxford. And he says, what remains after like writing this whole book about how farming should be to be slightly sustainable for the planet and socially just and so forth? He's like, what actually remains at the end of it is that we've all just got to learn, A, how to farm in this enlightened manner, and B, how to cook. and so like, the future is with the gourmet, because the gourmet foods of like every sort of culture across the world actually are based on what is a very healthy diet for human beings, of being like a small amount of meat, a big diversity of different kinds of plants, and it's very, very healthy. It's what our bodies need, it's what the earth needs, and that's really good news, right? There's no trade-off between health and environmental sustainability and really delicious good food. I wonder, go on. Yeah, we're gonna have a panel session where all of these guys are gonna come up, and you'll have opportunity to ask loads of questions and build on these conversations. But let's give us 5 minutes if you want to ask specific follow-up questions from the panel. Does anybody want to? Yeah, you do.
Thank you. It's really a sort of two-part question, and I don't know whether who might like to answer, but the first thing that strikes me is how much of this work, not just in the county but in the country, is driven by inspirational individuals like Jason, Tom, Sarah, and Rob. Last but not least. And Jason, you were talking about how TastEd has become incorporated, say, in the national curriculum in Wales. But is there any element of compulsion, or is it voluntary for schools to engage with? So that's the first part of my question is, you know, how do we make this really embedded nationally? I know it's difficult with the devolved nations, but how do we make it embedded and with an element of compulsion? And then the second thing is, the lady sitting on my right, you asked a very good question about whether this kind of education that TastEd does takes place in secondary schools. And what I think about is that you can introduce primary school children to all these really good habits of eating and understanding, because they're so much more open to you and more,
in general more sort of pliable. But when you get to secondary school, you're much more influenced by peer group pressure. And I wondered if there are any studies about the enduring nature of educating children about food and eating, whether that lasts through to secondary education or whether it gets diluted and eradicated by fast food outlets thinking certain foods are not cool anymore.
Do you want to have the first stab at that?
Regarding the capacity to get it into schools, TastEd is actually in 1,500 educational establishments across the UK now, and that's starting from a zero, well, starting from Washingborough where it first started. The national curriculum is a very, very wide palette, and you can include things in there, but it needs the leadership of the schools. It needs good school leaders, you know, like Sarah, like her head, like other heads, to think this is really, really important. We want to make our children's lives better. You can put it in there, but there are statutory things in countries like Finland, and you know, in the last 10 years, UK government said, well, look to Finland because their PISA ratings and everything, we should have an education system like that. One of their 4 pillars is good food education. They have got it in their national curriculum as statutory, and they've got the SAPRA method mentioned in there. So there is the capacity to do it, but it needs strong leadership to say, I'm putting my, you know, I'm saying this is really, really important for children. And through Ofsted inspections, and I've had many throughout the years, every time they have seen it, and I've made sure they've seen food education, because if they do, they have to report on it. So if you look at our Ofsted reports, it's got food education layered all the way through it, because what they see they have to write about. And every one of them has been really impressed, because you hit their heart and you say, are you a parent? What is the most important thing for your child? And everybody's going to say the child's health. So and your second point of the question was about secondary, wasn't it? There will be studies out there, I'm sure. I can't none bring to mind. I've got anecdotal ones of parents of year 7, 8 children who left our school at year 6. Last year, one parent came to me and said, you spoil my children by coming to your school because of what they access, and then they don't get it at secondary. You know, the lunches are canteens, and they're pizzas and they're donuts, and there's all that type of rubbish that goes on. And the access to food education on a weekly basis at our school in any form is unusual, but that doesn't mean that you stop doing it. You've got to have that kind of that goal that you think that this is really, really important, and it will catch a few people. Last year, one of our year 6 children worked in our school kitchen for the last half of the term in year 6. You know, did all the risk assessments. He was so engaged in food that that's the kind of career that he wants to go into. So he was prepping food for his friends and serving behind the kitchen at age 11. So yes, it does catch.
It's one of the principles, isn't it, of TastEd, that if you give children like a big diversity of taste experience in their childhood, actually that's one of the fundamental things that sets you up for a lifetime of healthy eating, on the basis that a healthy diet means eating a big diversity of things. There was, sorry, I'm answering your question instead of passing it on. I had in conversation with a nutritionist, and she told me about a study that they did with children, where they got the children to eat a tiny piece of kale. It could be as small as they liked. They were allowed to spit it out, and they had to rate it of how much they liked it. And surprise, surprise, lots of them said 1 and 0. And they repeated it, and same rules applied. They could spit it out as much as they wanted. But after 30 repetitions of tasting, they were having like really much higher scores. So it's kind of a bit about just taste experience. Do you guys want to answer that, about how it sets kids up for secondary and later? Yeah, I've worked with one of the funders that I spoke to recently said we've actually stopped funding school growing projects because they get set up by a volunteer, and I've been one of these volunteers in schools before, and a couple of years later it collapses for understandable reasons. And so having that drive right from the top is kind of essential. You look like you're going to say something.
No, I think, just on the secondary school stuff, we've been approached now by a local secondary school, and they are keen for their children to do something. We're going to set up a garden within that secondary school environment. I think, as you say, it does always require a lead to see that project through, whether that's within the school environment or someone like me externally. It does come down to funding. The school want to do it. They've actively come to find me and what we're doing already. I'm now looking and trying to access some different funding that will allow me to go into those school settings, but it does come down to funding and someone, like everyone's saying, to lead that project and sort of see it through. But there's a want, there's a need.
Thank you. I'm gonna come after because we'll have loads of chance for questions. Rob, did you want to say anything about teenagers or?
Not really.
Totally fine.
I suppose with teenagers, my only comment would be we really do want to work with more teenagers. We've had conversations with Lincoln University about young adults and about how improving their cookery skills can improve their independence, and that can improve their mental health, and how we can use cookery to help young people to build a connection with their local community, and I think those things are really important. So again, yeah, it's leadership, and it's from our perspective, it's the conversations that we've tried to initiate. And whilst those conversations have been really positive, they don't tend to go anywhere. So we have to keep pushing and pushing to make sure that those conversations turn into projects and courses, and we see the outcomes, and we can look at how many young people are benefiting, and what effect is it having on their mental health and their independence, I suppose.
Thank you. I'm going to let you go and have a tea break and a wee break. If you can come back to start promptly, I think it said 20 past. And Helen will be at the back if you feel like you want to have a little chat with her. You can bring your cups of tea back into the room if you want to.